Hi everyone, you are listening to the TÉKA podcast. I am Georgina Kozma, social scientist and bookworm. In the TÉKA podcast episodes, we talk about social issues, each time on new topics. One thing is for sure, we preserve ideas instead of borrowing them. Join us. Welcome, you are listening to a new episode of the TÉKA podcast in which my guests and I talk about books, the love and importance of reading. This is especially important today when we are talking more and more about technological singularity, the loneliness of young people, and the individualized, atomized society. Books are not only the fount of knowledge, but can also be a source of support for the individual. With the breakdown of traditional communities, it is more important than ever to strengthen communities that create and sustain value. Reading can also play a key role in creating such communities. I might fly in the face of popular opinion, but I firmly believe that reading is a social experience, even if at first glance it looks like an individual leisure activity. In today's episode, we are going to talk about culture. I'm delighted to have Mark Bauerlein, who is contributing editor at First Things and Professor Emeritus of English at Emory University. His books include The Dumbest Generation, How the Digital Age Stupefies Young Americans and Jeopardizes Our Future, and The Dumbest Generation Grows Up from Stupefied Youth to Dangerous Adults. Thank you for accepting my invitation. The trends are obvious. Young people are spending an increasing share of their free time in the online sphere. The internet has become the primary sources of information, and the role of weekly newspaper has completely changed as a result. Marshall McLuhan was right when he said decades ago that we live in a global village. Thanks to the development of digital communication technologies, the world has become so interconnected and small that it is like a village where people communicate quickly and are informed of every event almost instantly. As he wrote, time has ceased, space has vanished. We now live in a global village, a simultaneous happening. Our ways of acquiring knowledge have also transformed, and the role of schools in this new informational landscape is an increasingly hot topic. With each new leap in communication technology, virtually all knowledge becomes accessible to us. But the key question remains, have we become smarter?
I think you know what I'm going to say. We have not become smarter. We have not become wiser. We have not become well-informed. Having everything at our fingertips, easily retrieved, without any effort at all, means that it will not be retained. The process of absorbing information in a slow fashion is one of the things that allows us to think it through, to comprehend it, to put it into context, to see its implications. The problem with young people having Google knowledge at their fingertips is it just comes and goes. They pull it when they need it, and when the need is over, the knowledge is gone. Mental life, has accelerated so much that nothing really sticks. This is why I say the contrary to this isn't simply reading a book, a print book, without interruption for an hour in a chair, which young people simply never, ever, ever do, is to memorize something. Memorize a poem, memorize a speech in Shakespeare. Memorize one of the great political documents in their opening. That is the kind of deep, slow learning that has disappeared from the lives of the young. It's so strong in their leisure existence that teachers simply can't stop it. They can't oppose it with exercises on their own unless the entire school supports that kind of learning, unless all the other teachers in all the other grades have prepared students for the slow learning, the slow acquisition of knowledge. Now, some schools are doing that, and they're producing great results, but only a few. We do see a movement growing to ban all cell phones from schools. It's a very good thing, and I think it's going to spread, and we actually may reach the point, maybe 10 years from now, in which a child 11 years old with a cell phone playing some game or looking at TikTok videos is going to be the equivalent in people's minds of an 11-year-old smoking a cigarette. I think that's the recognition of damage is very strong now, and I think it's only going to increase as these kids who have had a cell phone since age 5 reach age 20 and they just don't have the equipment. They don't have the intellectual equipment. They don't have the reading comprehension aptitude to manage adult life in a responsible and productive way.
Speaking of reading books, at the Youth Research Institute, we continuously monitor the cultural changes that affect society, especially young people. We examine their leisure activities and reading habits. In Hungary, surveys on reading habits are conducted relatively regularly. Similar trends can be observed here as elsewhere, but the most thought-provoking result for me from the latest study was that the most common reason given by those who never read was simply that they don't like reading. In the past, people explained their lack of reading by saying they didn't have enough time. I have thought a lot about this finding. What exactly has changed? I came to the conclusion that perhaps time was never really the main reason. Rather, people were simply embarrassed to admit that they didn't read books. Today, the internet creates a false illusion that you can be cultured and up-to-date without ever picking up a book. Society's perception of what it means to be an educated person has changed. In the past, cultured person was often depicted with a book in hand. Today, they are more likely shown with a smartphone. How do you see it? How would Americans define being cultured or educated?
Well, a couple of things that I will say. One, I think the idea that the smartphone is a mode of acculturation is very good propaganda. One cannot consume serious cultural artifacts on a phone through a tiny screen. High culture requires a deeper, more patient engagement. You can't watch a great film on a small screen like that. You need something big. You can't listen to a recording of Götterdämmerung conducted by a fellow named Georg Schulte. It's not going to work on that little speaker on the phone. Now, why do they not like reading? They don't like reading because their minds have been conditioned against the mental process that goes into reading. How? Well, again, reading is slow. The TikTok video is fast. Reading is just block letters on a page. The TikTok video, the Instagram gives you sights and sounds and movement as well. It's more stimulating perceptually. Your eyes and ears are more fully engaged. You don't have to do the work of imagination. When you read a scene of Anna Karenina near the end when she approaches that train, you have to imagine it. You've got to picture her doing this. On the video, you don't have to. All the work is done for you. So it's an easier, faster consumption. And when you've been conditioned to be stimulated, perceptually stimulated, you don't like an activity that doesn't give you similar stimulation. And let's be clear, the designers of these tools, the websites, the games, were designed with the intent to make kids want more of that and not want to read. All of this has happened deliberately. The inventors, the designers, the owners, the marketing and advertising that went into all of this had an end in mind. And that is to get our kids to want to attach to that little device and stay there all day and all night, because that's how they make all of their money. Steve Jobs famously did not allow his own kids to get on screens at home. A lot of the Silicon Valley people send their kids to private schools that have no technology in them. They will then give to the public schools, the government schools in San Jose, near Silicon Valley. They'll donate all these computers to put in the new classrooms. It looks like a wonderful act of charity. These brand new laptops that all the kids get to have, but they don't let their own kids do it. So why they do it? Well, one, they get the schools hooked on the technology, which means the schools are going to have to update them. They're going to have to hire technicians. And also, they get the kids on screens. And the kids are going to want to be on the screens after school as well. So we have to understand all of this has happened. The damage that has been done to kids, the damage to reading was all by design.
I'm glad you mentioned schools, because my next question is, what do you think the future holds for the youngest generation? How can we protect them? As you may know, Hungary has already taken measures to prevent the negative effects of smartphones on school performance. Stricter regulations have been introduced for the use of smart devices in schools, and this doesn't just apply to public schools. Since the regulation came into effect, teachers have observed that students have started talking to each other again during breaks, and students themselves reported that they began sneaking books into the classroom again, even reading them hidden under their desks during lessons. I think that's sensational.
Look, Hungary has been a beacon to the rest of the world on many different issues. The rest of the world hasn't really wanted to admit that, but increasingly it's being forced to. The fact that Hungary is taking action with the young on this issue doesn't surprise me a bit, and it just extends my admiration for your country. It's happened a little bit in the United States, the banning of cell phones in schools, and I bet in Hungary, as in the United States, we haven't had any school teacher or Prince school leader say, we made a real big mistake when we banned the cell phones. Let's bring them back in. Nope, the results are already in. Everyone is happy about this. And it's interesting what you said about the kids. I bet their anxiety level during the day has gone down. They don't have to keep checking. Oh, what's going on? Oh, some pictures just went around. And I bet also disciplinary problems have gone down because social media with the young is often nasty. Many fights, fist fights, physical violence began on social media. Insults going back and forth. So it's all to the good. It's going to keep going. I have a hard time being optimistic about much of anything regarding the digital world, but these are very good signs.
The Next Generation. I think it's a very attention-grabbing title, short and punchy. It captures one of the central problems in just 2 words, but it raises the question for me. Ultimately, whose fault is this? I mean, who gives children mobile phones instead of books? Research on reading shows that middle-aged people read less than the youngest generation. Young people might still be influenced by book talk, for example. Social media can have a positive impact by making books trendy again. But what about the older generations?
They went in on it as well. And when the first book you mentioned came out in 2008, One reason I did that book with such a mean title is because many people in the education world, in the business world, culture sphere, were talking about the arrival of all these digital tools in glowing terms. They thought, this is fantastic. And these kids, they're leading the way. They're the ones who are learning how to text and send images and do Wikipedia. They're doing it so skillfully, much more than people my age were doing it. And so they were called millennials in the United States, that generation. They were supposed to be called Generation Y. We had Generation X, Generation Y, and now we have Generation Z. Why did we call them millennials? We called them that because we're entering the third millennium and a revolution has been happening and the young people are leading the way. They're the ones who are adopting these tools most quickly and adeptly, and they are going to lead America into the digital 21st centuries. They're the millennials. That is a grandiloquent term for people. I'm a millennial. I mean, that sounds rather important. You are the vanguard of the revolution. So I wrote this book to say, no. It's actually a horrible thing to give a 14-year-old a device that can go in his pocket that has 200 photos of himself on it. These are invitations to adolescent narcissism, that they indulge the worst tendencies of youth culture and peer pressure. This isn't going to make them the smartest generation ever, which was claimed for them. It's going to make them the dumbest generation. That was the provocation in that term. And we're doing a terrible thing to them. We are not insisting that they engage in the intellectual habits that go with adulthood, like, as you mentioned a moment ago, reading the newspaper, reading a real newspaper in the morning. If you read a newspaper and a magazine, you're going to become a more interesting human being in 6 months. We should be telling them this. Do not get on the phone. Wikipedia is a horrible source to use of information. I mean, the only thing Wikipedia is good for is to send you to other sources. And some of those are very good that are cited in a Wikipedia entry. But no, we don't want to stop there. We want them to go to a library and browse the shelf. Just look in an area, pull that book off, do a little slow research, not this quick typing on Google, and all of it comes up. It actually gives you a false picture of the world when it's Googleized in that way. And I can go into some examples of how that falsification happens, and the kids aren't even aware of it. So the adults at that time, and you said middle-aged people now who they went with the habits as well, and they didn't like some grouchy old scold like me coming along and saying, this is awful. You know, not all innovations are good. In fact, I would say most change that happens, most of them are for the worse. That's what makes me a conservative. But the adults let them down. The adults let them think, this is just as good as a newspaper. Having that phone is just as good as going to a museum. It's just as good as reading that novel. What a terrible lesson that we gave to them. And as I said in the second book, millennials who are now 35 years old in America, they have higher rates of anxiety, of depression, of narcissism, of social mistrusting their neighbors, other Americans. They have more suicidal thoughts taking place. They're taking more medications all the time. The marijuana smoking, the pornography addictions, they just keep getting worse because millennials didn't get the intellectual and emotional equipment when they were teenagers to deal with the disappointments of adulthood that are going to be inevitable. The internet gave them a fantasy future. I can become like Mark Zuckerberg. I've got a Facebook page which has 300 friends on it. My life is going to be so rich and full. No, you're going to have a job that you may not like. That girl who was perfect for you, she's going to dump you and move on. Your apartment is going to be more expensive, so that you can't. Then you can. Your health care is. Life is going to happen to you, not virtual life, real life.
Thank you. And my last question is, what message would you give to young Hungarians today?
One message. Well, I'll do a nice message instead of a mean message. You've got to get away from social life for some period of each day and cultivate a habit of solitary reflection. That could include times of prayer, times of long, slow reading of real books or newspapers. It could be listening to intelligent podcasts, radio, TV shows, intelligent ones, but you've got to work in a habit, a daily ritual of solitary adult reflection. It could be sitting in a room and listening to some Franz Liszt for 20 minutes and just sit there and take in the music. But something, a habit. Hegel, the German philosopher Hegel, he said the newspaper has become modern man's early morning prayer. Okay? And he didn't mean that entirely negatively. He said, this is the moment where the world just kind of pauses and you are taking things in and thinking about them. That's what you must do. It could be a little meditation. It could be doing some martial arts exercises, but some solitary, reflective activity, at least 1 hour a day. You will find yourself a calmer, happier, more interesting and intelligent, knowledgeable human being if you do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this work with the youth research. It's important work that needs to be done.
Thank you for accepting my invitation and sharing your stimulating and valuable thoughts with us. And I wish everyone listening to our conversation a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the TÉKA podcast. You can find more content on the Youth Research Institute's website and Facebook page.